Hey guys, it's Rodney, and for April's garden tour, we're going to do something a little bit different. You guys have asked a lot of questions about our kind of food garden space, so we thought for April, why not share with you guys what we've done so far. In this space, we've kind of got a mix of things going on, some experimental, some successful, but we're going to do a little walk around, and then you guys will get to see us kind of get things cleaned up and ready for the next phase of planting for all of our spring plantings. But to start, we've got our two raised beds. If you guys haven't checked out epicgardening.com/Rodney and Jake, go check that out now. But in our two raised beds, this is what we originally started with. And we did a lot of kind of cool season stuff. So we had some broccoli and cauliflower and a whole bunch of lettuces that we planted in these initially. And that's really what kind of took us through to get into the spring or the warmer months. But as you can see, we do have a few lettuces that we left over just to see kind of how they would do and how they'd hang out. Honestly, we also left these to give to the chickens as little treats. So these guys are still growing. They haven't bolted yet, so we'll just kind of let them keep going. And like I said, we use them to give to the chickens for treats, so they really enjoy them. We do have a cauliflower in here left. We have one cauliflower plant. Yes, she has been eaten like crazy, but she started putting on a new head again. So we're also going to kind of leave this one in here. All the lettuces were seeded, but we started the cauliflower and the broccoli by 4-inch starts. So it was kind of interesting to see the different pacing of those. But the lettuce grew in so densely and so crazy. I think we lived off of salads for about a week with that harvest. And then on this back bed here, we tried or are trying the Three Sisters planting method. If you're unfamiliar with that, the idea is to plant corn and then a couple weeks later plant vining or string beans, and then a couple weeks later plant your melons or your squash. Not personally a big fan of squash, and so what we did this year is corn, and then we did our beans, and then I did cucumbers just as like an experiment. But the concept here is that these guys are going to be nitrogen fixers, and then your melons or your squash are going to be a good ground cover to really basically act like a good mulch to help cover the soil. Um, so we'll kind of see how this goes. Honestly, the cucumbers are totally going to take over. So today what we're going to do is a little bit of kind of reorganizing of things. And then in the center here, what we've done is we've got the felt grow pots, and we've got things like garlic, ginger, and onions growing in those. That's a little bit of an experiment. They are kind of a longer crop. They take about 8 to 9 months in our area to fully develop. So I wanted those guys to be in containers that we could easily move around with the sun as the sun changed, which, being in April now, we're going to go ahead and move those out of in between the beds and kind of get things reorganized, because you can also see in the back we started some potatoes in a 5-gallon bucket. We did the bucket method because we had a bucket with holes in it. We just drilled a few extra holes. So what we did was start the potatoes in there, and then we've kind of kept these guys in between the two beds just to keep them protected. But now that it's warmer, we're going to kind of spread things out and get some better airflow in there. And then most recently, we just started some tomato plants, and as you can see, they're more like tomato trees already. But yeah, they're both growing like crazy. One is, let's see, one is a beefsteak and one is a celebrity, I believe, if I remember correctly. And these guys are just, I mean, they're just doing wild. But we already have some bloom sets started on those, so hopefully we'll be harvesting some tomatoes. And then deep down in here, where are they? Over here. We've already got some tomatoes starting to produce, so they're already doing pretty well. And then, of course, like I said, potato growing like crazy in there. So we're going to kind of just reorganize these guys because it's also getting a little bit floppy, not getting enough sun now that it's a little bit warmer and it's in the growing season. So we also want to move those guys so that the potatoes and the tomatoes both have room to, breathe and grow. And then, like I said, our cucumbers are going to go wild. And then this year we also did carrots by seed, and so I kind of did a cluster of those guys down at this end as an experiment. I've never done carrots personally, so really curious to see how well those do. Definitely not going to be enough. Some of this gardening this year has been experimental to see what does really well and what doesn't, and to see what we do really well with. So we'll kind of see in a few months how that harvest goes. But for today, What we're also going to do is kind of, like I said, reorganize some stuff. But on this side of the garden, our friends over at BK Link sent us over these felt grow pots. If you've never used a felt grow pot, they are totally worth the investment. These were little itty bitty baby peppers, and we've started those this year in these felt grow pots. The concept between the felt grow pot versus a raised bed is the felt grow pot is going to allow oxygen down into the roots. And as a good example on some of these guys in here, let's see if I can find one for you. But yeah, it basically, the felt grow pot allows the roots to literally breathe and grow outside of the felt, which is really what you want. As a reminder, if you are unfamiliar, a good soil mixture has 25% oxygen. That's a lot of air in your soil. So the felt planters do really well at allowing that proper airflow in and out of the root system itself. It's going to help reduce rot, fungal issues build up and things like that. But these guys are fantastic. The other thing I really like about them is that this variety has handles. So with these larger pots and this amount of soil in them, they can get really heavy and kind of cumbersome to move around without handles. So these handles are really helpful to have. And today, since we're going to do some reorganizing, the handles are going to come in handy. On this side too, we've got the, again, a larger felt grow pot here. Another brand's really great as well. But these guys, we've basically made a little herb mix, I guess you could say. We keep referring to this as our Italian herb mix. We use a lot of kind of mixed herbs in our cooking, and so we've got a lot of cilantro growing. We've got a bunch of basil here, some rue. Let's see what this is supposed to be. This goes over here. But this is our lemon balm. And then we've got parsley on the back. And we keep trying to do basil by seed over on that side. But our lovely chickens keep helping us garden with those. They keep digging this up and nesting in there. And then on this side here, we have done our other raised beds. So these guys are about 3 foot in diameter here. We started watermelon seeds on this side. This was a little bit of an experiment as well, but we ended up having to put up this fencing because, again, our lovely chickens keep trying to eat all of our sprouts and seedlings. But we've got about 5 plants really started and taking on this side. So they've been off to a pretty good start so far. We are a little late because they're growing a little slow right now, but we'll see how they do. And then on the back side of the breeze block here, we took advantage of this nook. Of course, we've got our Mexican honeysuckles, that we planted. You guys saw that in our fall garden. But what we've added in here is the Arctic Frost Satsuma Orange. So we're hoping that we get a nice, ornamental tree out of this, but also the amazing benefit of having oranges. And the Arctic Frost is really great because it can take down to basically a -10 degrees. I would still personally cover it if we had ice, because that will damage your foliage, which can really stunt the growth of your citrus. But for the most part, these guys are really cold hardy. And like we've talked about before in our gardens, we do this little DIY drip irrigation. And so since we have one here for the orange, we also tucked in here some peppermint. Most of the other mint growing in our garden beds is spearmint, which is my favorite, but Jake prefers the peppermint, so this is Jake's favorite. And we're gonna let this guy just basically become a ground cover for this little captured space. And then I couldn't resist the variegated Alaska nasturtium. Nasturtium blooms are also edible, so they're really fun and great for things like salads and a little bit of color in your garden salad. So they're a lot of fun to have, and they're just a unique, cool looking plant. But so we're gonna kind of let those guys seed out, and then the peppermint, like I said, just let it grow in there as basically a ground cover to cover up that whole space. And then this year we've also started some loofahs and birdhouse gourds by seed. We've stuck a couple of them in the ground over there with our new slat wall just to kind of see how they do growing up that wall, because they are just an annual basically. But I'm pretty stoked. We do have, we've got to find places for these guys still too. So we'll see. I would love to make kind of those long arches that you see. We've got like, pumpkins and gourds and loofahs and stuff growing on them. We just don't have a space for that right now. So that would be the dream. That would be like the goal, fingers crossed. But we'll kind of see where we get these guys. And then we've also got our grape started this year. We talked a little bit about this. This is the Victoria Red, or Red Victoria. And then we're going to be doing here soon a little deck extension with kind of an arbor built around this space right here. And that's what this grapevine will grow up and cover. And then eventually we're going to run into the issue where we're going to need to find more space for it. But hey, that's not today's problem. That's a different day's. So yeah, so for today, we're going to do a little bit of rearrange, kind of freshen up the garden. And then our herbs have been so successful in these grow pots that we're going to get some more herbs kind of planted and started and going in these pots from our friends over at BK Link. Check the description below for a link, get you guys a discount. If you've never used a felt grow pot for your veggies, honestly, you can do it for things like annuals and perennials as well. It's just so good for your herbs and veggies because of the airflow that gets to the root system. It just prevents so many diseases and fungal issues. So check it out. Check the link in the description below. But for today, let's get started on the garden. All right, because our herbs have done so well in the grow pots, what we're thinking about doing is switching and putting our peppers in the raised beds, because then we can also have some better trellising in here and fill these up with some more herbs and such. We'll probably also get in a mix of herbs that the chickens can get into, since they love eating all of these plants. And then be able to take full advantage of the felt grow pots as well.
These metal clippers really struggle with the fabric. Oh. Everybody can breathe. I had a dream last night that this clip was left off of this, and you were trying to blame it on me. And I was like, I have not been to the chickens all
You
day.
literally opened it up last night. Maybe that was your dream. You were worried you left it unlocked.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You literally unlocked
In the
it to see if all of them were there.
the dream, that particular day, I had not touched it.
All I heard was that you had a subconscious worry.
That you were going to leave it, and then blame it on me. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That is a consistent fear of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies, leave your eggs at home. We made a box for them now that you're full grown. I can see by the color of your comb that you got some eggs and they're gonna be poppin', poppin'.
Alright, come on. We gotta move these out of our way too.
To where? Here? Just behind these? Or we're gonna put them along the...
That's what I was actually wondering if we should go there. Because they're gonna, sun will come up and over.
Tomorrow. What is this? This looks like it was a seed.
What?
Oh no, ginger, sorry. It just has not sprouted yet.
Let me have all the garlics first.
Okay.
All the orange ones, yeah. See, look at all those good roots. Great.
The roots in my home. The roots.
I don't know what, we lost one out of that planter for some reason.
What?
I don't know what happened to that one.
Probably Wally.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And what are these again?
These are onions. But they're the little sweet onions, so don't know how well they're gonna fully develop in here, because this was part of the experiment. But like, this is... Don't love this, but it's doable.
Ladies, get away. Leave it.
Why are you yelling at the chickens?
Because they were getting into this shit.
Oh, finally a ginger is sprouting.
Ooh, let's see. Nice.
Ugh, 6.5 years later.
My God, there's so much room. Sure.
Grab the stuff that's like built up on
Yep.
the sides, you know what I mean, and just pull it around. All right, and then and not loving this so far, but until we have more beds, I think this might be our only option to do. What do we have? 4 peppers.
So we're taking the lettuce up? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I mean that's yes. She's done.
Should we harvest
And
those
realistically, this is going to be a whole thing. Should we harvest what?
those leaves for consumption?
I don't care what you do with them, but they're all going to come out.
Well, that's like trail.
Yeah, they're too hot. Said yeah, it's too hot.
Da 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 da. Hand ho, hand ho, hand ho, hand ho. What is that?
So, since we are going to transplant our peppers into here so we can have better trellising, you want to make sure that the soil is kind of fluffed and refreshed. We want to get oxygen back into the soil since it's compressed from the lettuces having lived in here. And then I'm going to just use the side of this to kind of flatten everything out, smooth out the surface. We do technically need more soil in here. This is actually really low, but we don't have any soil right now. So I'm going to mix in some of what's in these into this. All right, but we need... All right, those are both bell peppers. This is a jalapeno, and that's a bell pepper. So what I'm thinking is maybe try to just keep the jalapeno on one side or the other. Do you know what I mean?
That makes sense.
I'm going to do the jalapeno in the front. So what I'll do is these guys on the side, so then we can do more tomatoes. You want to just dig them up and toss them to me? And then I can pot them.
Yeah, this soil. You said this one's the pepper and that
The one in the center is the jalapeno.
Oh, okay.
And so I feel like everybody knows this at this point, but anytime you get a plant and it's got a grow tag, I always suggest keeping it, stick it in the soil next to where you're planting your plant. That way, if you forget what variety is, or you're doing several different varieties, you kind of know which ones performed well or didn't perform well for next year's plantings. Also, I would normally say take the cauliflower out, but because it's got a whole new head started, we're gonna leave it. We're gonna see how well it does to do a whole second harvest. I really doubt we're gonna get a second harvest because it is getting warm and it will start bolting really quickly, but fingers crossed. I'm gonna just fight with these chickens more now that this fencing's down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and the point was to keep the chickens out, so.
No, the point was to keep the freaking cat out. So then that frees up our additional containers here from BK Link for our grow pots, so we can plant some other stuff. Raised planters, especially like long rectangular ones, are good for mass planting. So like grouping the peppers and tomatoes is always really good because you get a better organized harvest out of it when you mass plant things. So I'm thinking next year what we'll probably do is do the corn and the beans right in pots like these, because then you could do like 4 corn with a bean or 2 in the center that can grow up the corn, similar to the Three Sisters idea. And then the foliage of the corn will actually keep the planter pretty well shaded, and it'll get so much better oxygen out of these kind of felt grow pots. So maybe that's next year's goal. We'll do something like that. But for this year, I think we'll reuse these for some additional herbs. If we leave our potatoes over here, I'm trying to organize things by like long-term harvest and short-term harvest, meaning like things that are going to span over a couple of planting seasons. So like the garlics and onions and things like that. Trying to just find a spot that we can kind of tuck those that they'll be happy because they're going to span over multiple seasons. Whereas everything in here and our planters are going to be more of a one-season situation. So like a lot of this is going to be harvested in summertime, and then we'll be move on to planting stuff that we'll harvest in the fall. At which time we'll start harvesting all the garlics and onions and things. So just trying to keep it organized and not move stuff around too much.
Already it feels more open.
We do need to get things watered. It's supposed to rain, but I don't want to rely on this little bit of rain we're going to get. So I think we should still water at least some of this stuff. That'll help empty the rain tank for the next rain too. Do you feel like grabbing the pitchfork and just kind of like sticking it in around each of these plants and just kind of wiggling it back and forth?
Sure.
Just to get some oxygen flowing.
Don't forget the strawberries.
All right, guys, so that's it for our April garden tour. Let us know what you guys thought about our food, veggie, herb garden tour.
Also, make sure you tune in to the next garden tour. It's the first weekend of May, where we will be doing the return of our World Naked Gardening Day garden tour.
And if you guys like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that little bell icon to see the next time we post a video.
Also, make sure you check out our website, rodneyandjake.com, where we have vlogs, tutorials, and a merch store where you can buy things like this lovely hat. Also, check us out on our other social media. We are at Rodney and Jake on Instagram and TikTok.
And as always, guys, we want to give a huge shout out to all of our members. We greatly appreciate your support. If you guys are not a member and you want to help support the channel, check the link in the description below. But our members get things like early access to some of our videos, as well as behind the scenes footage.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.